In the heart of the Middle East and North Africa, Jewish communities have weaved their existence since ancient times. Before the sweeping conquests of the 7th century by Muslim forces, these venerable communities had endured the rule of various empires, from the Babylonians and Persians to the Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Ottomans, and Yemenites. Upon the arrival of Muslim rule, Jews found themselves classified as dhimmi, a term that also included other non-Muslim religious groups. While this status placed them as second-class citizens, often subjected to persecution, it also bestowed certain rights and protections upon them as the people of the book. During the medieval times in Europe, when persecution waves crashed upon the Jewish communities, many sought solace in the lands under Muslim rule. However, today, the once vibrant Jewish populations in Muslim countries have dwindled significantly. Iran and Turkey now house the largest Jewish communities in this region. This decline can be attributed to the widespread persecution, rising anti-Semitism, political instability, human rights violations, and a strategy by the Israeli government to encourage Jews from the Islamic world to relocate to Israel. Recent estimations from 2018 by the Jewish Agency suggest that approximately 27,000 Jews remain in Arab and Muslim countries. Historical accounts reveal the presence of a substantial Jewish population in Arabia for an extended, albeit uncertain, period. Some historians speculate that as many as 80,000 Jews migrated to Arabia following the destruction of the First Temple, joining those who had long established communities in places like the Khaybar oasis and trading colonies in Medina. Another theory suggests that these Jewish settlers were fleeing Byzantine persecutions. Arab historians even document around 20 Jewish communities in the region, including 2 of the priestly Kohanim class. The Constitution of Medina, composed shortly after the Hijra, addressed various aspects of the civil and religious life of Jewish communities residing in the city from an Islamic perspective. It notably articulated that the Jews will profess their religion, and the Muslims theirs, with each community being responsible for its own expenditures. However, conflicts arose between the Jewish tribes and Muhammad's growing Muslim community. The Jewish tribe of Banu Qaynuqa breached treaties and agreements after the Battle of Badr, leading to their expulsion after surrender. Subsequently, the Banu Nadir faced a similar fate, accused of conspiring to assassinate the Prophet Muhammad. The third major Jewish tribe in Medina, Banu Qurayza, met its end after betraying the Muslims during the Battle of the Trench. It's important to note that many other Jewish communities, like Banu Auf, Banu Harit, Banu Jusham, Banu Al-Fagir, Banu Najjar, Banu Saida, and Banu Shataba, continued to live peacefully in Medina even after these events. In the year 20 of the Muslim era, around 641 CE, Caliph Umar, the successor to Muhammad, decreed the removal of Jews and Christians from most of Arabia. This decree stemmed from the Prophet's words, "Let there not be 2 religions in Arabia." The 2 communities affected were the Jews of the Khaybar oasis in the north and the Christians of Najran. Only the Red Sea port of Jeddah remained as a religious quarantine area, continuing to host a small number of Jewish merchants. This decree marked a significant shift in the religious landscape of Arabia. The Middle Ages brought forth a unique chapter for Jewish communities living under the benevolent gaze of Muslim rule. Some scholars even hail this era as a golden age for Jewish people, a time of unfolding opportunities and integration. In the tapestry of everyday life, Abdul Fattah Ashur, a professor steeped in the medieval history at Cairo University, describes how Jewish communities found solace under Islamic rule during these Middle Ages. This was a time when Muslim authorities often did not rigidly enforce the Pact of Umar, a set of regulations dictating the status of non-Muslims, including Jews. In certain cases, such as in 11th century Granada, the Jewish community didn't bear the yoke of second-class citizenship. As author Merlin Swartz notes, this era marked a new beginning for the Jews. Tolerance allowed them to seamlessly integrate into Arab Islamic society. This harmonious integration into society opened doors for Jews to pioneer advancements in various fields, including mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, chemistry, and philology. Some even rose to wield political power under Islamic rule. For example, the Vizier of Baghdad entrusted his capital's welfare to Jewish bankers, and Jews managed segments of maritime and slave trade. In the 10th century, the principal port of the Caliphate, Siraf, was even governed by a Jewish official. This wave of commercial freedom strengthened their bond with the Arab marketplace, in sharp contrast to the situation in Europe, where restrictions still reigned supreme. Jewish people moving to Muslim territories found themselves unburdened by societal biases and free to pursue various professions. Yet, it's essential to acknowledge that this period was not a utopia. Jews still faced episodes of persecution. The Pact of Umar, implemented under Islamic rule, offered protection but also relegated Jews to an inferior status. Starting from the 11th century, there were instances of violent pogroms against Jews. Notable examples include the 1066 Granada massacre, which witnessed the obliteration of the entire Jewish quarter in Granada. In the North African region, violence against Jews reared its head during the Middle Ages, and similar incidents occurred in other Arab lands, including Egypt, Syria, and Yemen. Come the 15th century, the Moroccan Jewish population found itself confined to segregated quarters called mellahs. In cities, these areas were cordoned off by walls and fortified gateways. Rural mellahs, on the other hand, were entirely separate villages inhabited solely by Jews. The Almohads, a fundamentalist Islamic group that gained control of a considerable part of Islamic Iberia by 1172, ruled with a heavy hand. They treated the Dhimmi, the protected non-Muslim communities, harshly. In the face of this stringent rule, Jews and Christians were expelled from Morocco and Islamic Spain. Faced with the harsh choice of conversion or death, some Jews, like the family of Maimonides, sought refuge in more tolerant Muslim lands, while others migrated northward to the burgeoning Christian kingdoms. Notably, historian Mark A. Cohen invites us to view the Jewish experience in Islamic lands through a comparative lens. He posits that Jews living under Muslim rule often experienced less physical violence than their counterparts in Western Christendom. Cohen suggests that Muslims considered Jews less theologically threatening compared to Christians, who sought to establish a distinct religious identity separate from Judaism. In his view, persecution was sporadic, more an exception than the rule. Claims of systemic persecution at the hands of Muslim rulers were likely propagated for political purposes. This era in the Muslim world encapsulates a duality. Jewish people thrived culturally and economically at times, yet faced persecution at others. Historian Muhammad Ibrahim Ahmed adds another layer to this intricate relationship. He argues that the dynamics between Muslims and Jews were contingent on the political landscape of the time. Thus, it's a story of ever-shifting periods of conflict and coexistence. Amid the intricate tapestry of history, the Ottoman Empire emerged as a sanctuary for Jewish refugees, especially as waves of Jews fled the Spanish Empire. The fateful year 1492 marked the fall of Muslim Spain and the issuance of the Edict of Expulsion. This exodus continued even during the era of the Roman Catholic Inquisition as secret Jews and forced converts sought refuge beyond the Iberian Peninsula. In a parallel struggle, Jewish communities from North Africa, including the Maghreb region, found a haven among the Ottomans. In these large Arabian cities, segregated Jewish quarters, known as mellahs, were established. However, this journey was not without hardships. In 1834, the town of Safed in Ottoman Syria witnessed the brutal Safed plunder, a tragic massacre carried out by local Muslim Arabs against the Jewish population. The year 1840 brought a harrowing episode in Damascus, where Jews were falsely accused of a gruesome crime, the alleged murder of a Christian monk and his Muslim servant. The accused were even said to have used their blood to bake Passover bread. This baseless charge led to a series of arrests, torture, and forced conversions. Throughout the 1860s, the Jewish community in Libya faced a series of punitive taxes, an economic burden that weighed heavily upon them. The year 1864 turned particularly grim, as about 500 Jews lost their lives in the Moroccan cities of Marrakesh and Fez. In 1869, 18 Jews were killed in Tunis, while an Arab mob in Jerba Island pillaged and burned Jewish homes, stores, and synagogues. The violence continued in 1875 when a mob in Demnat, Morocco, claimed the lives of 20 Jews. Elsewhere in Morocco, Jews were attacked and killed in broad daylight on the streets. In 1897, synagogues were ransacked, and Jews were murdered in Tripolitania. Kurdistan tells the story of an enduring Jewish presence. Jews lived in this region for thousands of years before a mass migration to Israel between 1951 and 1952. In Kurdistan, they coexisted under both the Ottoman and Persian empires, working in urban centers and rural villages, often engaged in weaving traditional Kurdish clothing or serving as tenants under local landlords. In Persia, Jewish life endured a turbulent path. In 1656, all Jews in Isfahan were expelled and forced to convert to Islam due to perceptions that their Jewish identity was impure. Although they were eventually allowed to revert to Judaism in 1661, they were still required to wear a distinctive patch on their clothing. In 1839, in the city of Mesht, a mob attacked the Jewish quarter, burning the synagogue and destroying Torah scrolls. The Jews were violently coerced into conversion. The middle of the 19th century painted a grim picture of life for Jews in Persia, as captured by Benjamin. Jews lived in separate parts of towns, considered unclean, and were subjected to severe restrictions and humiliating treatment by Muslims. A group of Persian Jews, including the Bukharian Jews and Mountain Jews, eventually separated to form distinct communities due to historical and regional variations. Yemen, under Zaidi rule, enforced increasingly oppressive laws against Yemenite Jews, reaching a point where they were considered impure. This led to their eventual exile, known as the Exile of Malta. Under these laws, Jews were humbled before Muslims and faced numerous restrictions and indignities. Islamic Spain's history was marked by periods of coexistence and contention between Muslims and Jews. Samuel B. Nagrella, who became Grand Vizier, was an example of Jewish success, supporting Talmudic schools and even challenging the Babylonian Janate. But Joseph B. Nagrella met a tragic end due to his perceived threat as a Jew. In the post-colonial era, the Arab League experienced a massive Jewish exodus. By the mid-1970s, most Jews had left or been expelled from Arab and Muslim-majority countries, relocating primarily to Israel, France, and the United States. The reasons for this exodus remain a subject of debate and vary from place to place. Despite these challenges, smaller Jewish communities still exist in some Arab countries, like Morocco and Tunisia. In non-Arab countries, such as Iran and Turkey, Jewish populations persist, albeit significantly smaller than their historical sizes. Imperial Iran and the Islamic Republic have seen changes in the Jewish population. Iran, with a history of Jewish communities dating back to ancient times, retained between 8,000 and 10,000 Jews. However, a large portion left during political instability in the 1950s and following the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Today, the largest Persian Jewish communities are found in Israel and the United States, representing both the legacy and resilience of a people who have weathered the shifting sands of history.